So let's get back to the premise that science is about gathering data. Did you gather any data on the impact?
Oh, well, what happened was their task was to design the methodology. And then they gave that to us, and we sent it away to our scientists, who worked all night and produced some wonderful data for them. But I mean, we wanted to do it that way because at school, everything you do, you always write the data down. They're always so used to, that's a part that they're always involved in, and we wanted to say, no, you're not doing that, our scientists are doing that. You have to work out what would be a good experiment, and whether, is it okay just to have 5 participants in each category, or is that going to produce bad data? So we wanted to get them, just remove them a little bit from the experiment and have them sort of observe it from afar rather than being right in the thick of it.
And focus on the actual methodology.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. What was the most interesting question that a child ever asked you?
Well, I know one of the most memorable things a child's ever said was, did you know you're more likely to die watching the lottery than you are to win it? And this was from the mouth of a 9-year-old girl, which that stuck with me. I really like that. As far as questions, I'm not sure. We have, which I haven't actually mentioned in the presentation at Denkfest, we have what's called the Invisible Unicorn Challenge, where on the first night there's a setup where we explain that there are 2 invisible unicorns that inhabit the grounds at Camp Quest, but you can't see or hear or touch them. They leave absolutely no trace. But we believe that they're there because we've been told, and all the staff members believe they're there. And so we'll offer you a prize if you can prove that they're not there. And some of the kids are aware that it's a fruitless task. Some of them really, really try hard because they want to win the prize, which is a £10 note that Richard Dawkins signed. And in England, the £10 note has Charles Darwin on it. So I thought that was quite nice. Because in America, they have the same challenge, but they have a $100 bill, and it was printed before the words "In God We Trust" were put on the money, so it's a godless bill. So I wanted something that was equivalent. Yeah, that really gets some of their heads in a whirl. They think, but no, you have to prove it. No, but you have to disprove it. That's the task. So I get a lot of interesting comments and questions around that, because it's actually quite an elegantly constructed thought experiment, and the fact that it can have the children scratching their heads for a week, I think just shows how good it is.
Let's get into more, let's say, administrative questions. How much does it cost to run Camp Quest? Where does that funding come from?
Well, we charge this year for the 5-day camp. We charge £250, which I'm not sure what the conversion for that is, but it's on the low side for equivalent summer camps. We only charge a little bit more for the parents than we have to pay to the camps. We're completely run by volunteers, and so as such we don't really receive funding. Because there's a small dedicated group of volunteers, and we do everything by email and on the internet. So all the administration stuff is taken care of by us. So we don't really have any running costs. But obviously in the future I would like to start applying for funding. Although this year we did have support from the British Humanist Association and the National Secular Society in helping finding us guest speakers and paying expenses for them. So that was great because we had some really good guest speakers.
Are all supervisors 100% volunteers, or are there any of them paid, let's say, in any way or partly, or support in any way? And if they're all volunteers, does this limit your program in any way?
Well, I mean, I would say that I probably do the most work for Camp Quest, and I don't see any money. I sometimes see expenses, but not always. It really depends on how well it's gone that year. So the most anyone is reimbursed is through expenses and a free T-shirt. And the volunteers at camp, they have their food and board paid for, obviously, because you can't say, well, come and work here, but you have to pay for it. So no, they don't really see anything, but I don't think this limits us, because we've had enough people want to volunteer, and people of really, really high standards with really diverse backgrounds. And in some ways I think that it's a good thing that none of us are paid, because when we tell the children, you know, we don't have to do this, this isn't our job, we do this because we love to do it, and they think, well, they must be doing it for a reason, so it must be something that they feel really strongly about. And I think that helps it helps differentiate us from teachers in a way, because they know that the teachers are paid. Even if they're a really good teacher, they know, well, they're there because they have to be there. And we say, you know, if you act like this, are we going to want to take you for sessions? No. And I think it's interesting for them, because I don't think they come across that a lot. I certainly, as a child, never really came across a situation where someone was volunteering and to look after me. So I think that it makes them think, at least, which is part of the idea, isn't it?
What would you advise somebody wanting to start such a program in their own area? How should they do it? Should they do it as some kind of affiliation with your program or a similar program, or should they use should they co-opt somebody who was already involved in CampQuest in another place or something like that?
I think probably the best idea is to either get in touch with me or get in touch with the director of CampQuest in the States, who is Amanda Metzges, and discuss going over to volunteer at a camp, because that's how I started. I think you have to have a first-hand CampQuest experience to really understand what it is we do and how we do it. Obviously, it would depend on so many things, whether you wanted to go to America or the UK or what. But we had some humanist scouts from Norway who came last year, and there were 2 scout leaders and 4 of the scouts. And obviously, the scouts in Norway are very religious, and they were excluded from a lot of the scouting events because they were humanist scouts. And they came over, and I think this summer they ran a CampQuest in Norway. So yeah, I think it starts with the experience of what CampQuest is about, and then we'll see, take it from there.
Okay. Can you tell us about some of your future plans? What can you tell our listeners?
World domination. I think I would like to see CampQuest get as big as the Scouts. I don't think it will be as big as the Scouting movement, but I think we have a great deal of support for that kind of thing in the UK. It's a very non-religious country, despite the fact that it's so controlled by religion. You know, we have a state church, and we have church schools, and so, but it's funny that because no one's really religious, so we have a great deal of support in our country, and I think we could see it expand throughout the country, and I know that there's a lot of support from Europe as well, although it hasn't come to much yet, but people have been very interested in the idea of CampQuest in Germany and a couple in Switzerland as well. So it really, I think it just takes someone with a lot of energy, a lot of passion and commitment to say, yes, I can do this, because I was 21 when I went over to the States, and you know, I'd never done anything like that before, but they said, no, you can do it, and I have. So if I can do it then, you can do it now.
Okay, thank you very much for this interview. It was really a pleasure, and we really liked also your presentation from yesterday's session. Again, I hope our listeners will enjoy this interview. Again, thank you very much.